Welcome to See This Building? There used to be shows here. This episode is about Turner's Hall. As you can see, it is another venue that is nothing but a vacant lot now. It was at the corner of 20th and Salisbury across from Hyde Park in North St. Louis. This was another venue scouted out by John Green. This building had a long history, built in the 19th century. It was a German gymnasium. I won't go into all the details here, but I will include a link in the description. The demographic of the neighborhood around it was mostly white folk that never left during the White Flight. The main problem here was that the locals hated punk rockers with more than the usual disdain most people had at the time. The reaction was violent, to say the least. As I mentioned at the Bernard Pub, you risked your car being broken into or even mugged for your money and property. At Turner's, you could be jumped and beaten just for looking funny. Imagine Deliverance but in a crumbling urban setting. Loading in and loading out was most definitely a group activity. The first show I remember seeing there was Necros in November of 1985, followed up a couple of weeks later by Circle Jerks. I know the Circle Jerks show was videotaped because I did see it after the show at a party in Webster Groves. But since then, it has been lost to time. I asked Xander about it when the Weirdos played here, but he had no memory of it and didn't have any information about any copy existing anywhere. Turner's was run by a woman probably in her late 50s or early 60s, but to me at 21 she might have been in her early 40s for all I know. There was a little deli on the first floor on the corner and another little shotgun bar on the east side of the main entrance. Those double doors opened up to a vestibule and to a large, wide wooden staircase. They took you up to the main floor of what was the ballroom. From a band perspective, it was a terrible load in and load out. There were at least two other bars up there. At some point, they added acoustical tile as more of a cover-up for the falling ceiling than to help with any sound issues. It was a huge room that echoed like crazy, basically. And other than the Black Flag show, there was never enough sound system to actually work. When Black Flag played, I was afraid the ceiling was actually going to come down on us. It shook a lot of stuff loose that night. When Blast played, the singer just gave up. There was no way you could hear him, but he still belted out the songs anyway. As I mentioned, John Green, the local promoter that did most of the shows back then, found the building. He was always looking for new places. In fact, he had another location where he did shows over the summer of 1985 near Turner's called Brothers Bar. I'll talk more about that in another episode. John dealt with Dorothy as she ran the building, and she was always there watching over things but not really getting in the way too much. The stage was rather large. It had two actual dressing rooms on either side of it. Now, don't get the impression it was in any sort of good shape or restored in any way. I'm sure we were inhaling all kinds of mold and lead paint. As you can see on the calendar there, the month of February was pretty busy at Turner's. In just 1 month, the Dead Milkmen, St. Vitus, The Brood, Corrosion of Conformity, Asexuals, and the Effigies. During the Turner's days, John Green had started adding metal bands to punk shows too. It never went too well, but he did it anyway. The crowds just didn't mix other than Milwaukee Iron, and for some reason I guess they're more heavy rock than heavy metal, went over pretty well. In early 1986, my band White Suburban Youth was coming to an end. We had recorded a bunch of songs in January, but we had no money to release it. So at the shows we played up until our last show with Naked Raygun in April of 86, Rob would use a double tape deck and make copies on the spot from the master cassette. This has a bit of symmetry to it. We actually had the money to record from playing with Naked Raygun in January of 86 at SIU Edwardsville. There is video of our last show shot by Sean Haley, which I'll add part of to at the end of here. I don't remember when Ultraman played their first show at Turner's or who it was with now, but we did play the last show there with Raw Power and Dayglow Abortions. I can't find a flyer for it though. The show was in November of 1986, so the venue only lasted 1 year for punk rock shows. Dayglow was able to play their whole set, but by the time Raw Power got on stage and played maybe 2-3 songs at the most, the cops arrived and that was it. A bunch of the locals had made their way into the building and there was a bit of mayhem. At that point, Dorothy called the police. I would guess now that was due to her fear of another brawl breaking out like it did after the Descendants show. Luckily, I just got to watch that from the window. There must have been at least 50 or so people just slugging it out in the streets in front of Turner's. So that was it for Turner's. Over the years, the building was vacant. Between the rotting roof and then later a fire from errant fireworks, it finally had to be demolished in 2011. The video is from the last White Suburban News show with Naked Raygun. After that is a bit of video of Jim Agnew. He had a zine for a couple of years called Head in a Milk Bottle. I'll wrap this all up after the video.
This guy. He's got a mohawk right here.
My influence, Wellington Jennings.
What the hell is that haircut mean?
Willie Nelson and Rockin' Bob Thurman.
What the hell is that haircut? Poodle boy.
Hey, that's a wig and you know it.
We have here the beret with the dreadlocks.
Not only a green beret, he is yellow, blue, and yellow. But you can do this too.
With the Jimmy Z beret. And he has a punk rock girlfriend with blue earrings and the earring in the nose. Quote that. Now here we have a woman with the Toxic Reasons t-shirt. Now if this isn't a punk rock gig, I do not know what is. Scott Lloyd. Here we have the generic skinhead.
Thanks for watching another episode of See This Building? There used to be shows here. Please add any questions or comments. If you have any venues you would like me to ramble on about, please let me know. And as always on the YouTube, please like and subscribe. Thank you.